evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tabernacle Township Committee meeting of February 26, 2018. We thank you all for taking time from your evening to attend and be with us, and we value your opinion, which you'll have opportunities during the public portion. Before we do the flag salute, or after we do the flag salute, I'm going to ask everyone to stay standing for a moment of silence for the 17 faculty and students at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, also for Reverend Billy Graham. And last but not least, Tabernacle Rescue Squad, Board 39 member Joanne Jackson. So let's do a flag salute. Bow your heads for a moment of silence.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
This meeting is called pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of February 26, 2018 is included in the list of notices sent to Central Record, Burlington County Times, and Courier Post, posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall, and has remained continuously posted as required notices under dispatch. In addition, a copy of this notice has been available to the public and is on file of the office of the municipal clerk. Roll call: Ms. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Franzen.
Here.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Yates.
Here.
Mayor Barton.
Present. Okay. Before we do the public comment, we are going to, it's not on the agenda, but we are going to go into executive session at the end of the last public comment. And the reason we're going to go into executive session is to discuss shared service with adjacent municipalities. We may or may not take action after that executive session. At this time, this is for agenda items only. You're welcome to come up. Please state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes to tell us your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Procedural question. I have comments on the discussion items. Do you want to hold them if there will be a time that is better suited, or do you want to take these comments now?
We will take public comments during those discussions.
Okay. In that case, I'll pass on those. I do have a comment on item 9, sale of municipally owned property. And, I recall 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago, Township had a similar request. I believe it was from Forest Fighter, Sean Judy, I believe. I also believe the Township declined to sell the property. And as I recall, Mr. Judy was the adjacent property owner. I also think the property that he was inquiring about might have been landlocked. My comment is this: if there is, in general, I don't know the particulars of what the matter is that we're discussing, but in general, if the township has no use for the property, there's no public purpose for you to hold it, I think there's every public purpose for you to sell it to someone who can put it to use. You get the value of the sale, you get annual taxes on it, and a private citizen gets to use it. I mean, that is a win-win situation. And you also offload yourselves the burden of maintaining it and being responsible for it. So I didn't understand why the other offer to purchase wasn't accepted. And I hope that you would consider these comments when you take that into consideration. And I would add that if this is also a landlocked property, I think that you should consider a procedure by which the property is offered to adjacent landowners for the assessed value. Because if they're the only ones who can get to it, it would make most sense that they, if they're interested, have an opportunity to get it. It would make no sense to have someone who can't get to it end up bidding the property up for no reason that they can benefit from. or for them to actually be a successful bidder on a property that they can't get to and they can't maintain. That would be the opposite of public purpose. That would leave an unmaintained piece of property. And that I think is good. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public portion.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Mr. Brooks made a reference to a piece of property that Sean and Judy wanted to purchase. As I recall, we did not refuse a sale, we did not come to an agreement with the sale. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
I believe Mr. Lee is correct. And I've looked at every piece of property that we are interested in putting on up for bid, and none of it appears to be landlocked, especially the piece that you were stating that Mr. Judy was interested in. That definitely is not landlocked.
Thank you.
Is there any further comment, Mr. Brooks?
No, I made my comments.
Okay, good, thank you.
I'll stand by
Okay,
corrections.
approval of the bills?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, but before we approve them, could you go over, there were a lot of expenditures on emergency vehicles. Could you just go over what they are so that everybody understands?
Okay, we had expenditure for Blaze Emergency Equipment for replacement of the siren on Chief's Vehicle 4300. We had a replacement of the auto eject plug, which is the plug that maintains the batteries when the vehicle's in the garage for 4317, which is the mini pumper. Eastern Auto, we replaced the batteries on 4318. Fire and Safety, we did repairs to 4317, which is the, I think that's AB phone, A phone. There was an issue with the valve, and that needed to be rebuilt or replaced. I don't remember which. Fire 1 was aerial testing for 4314. Mechanics Auto Parts in Medford was batteries for 4316 and belt for the tanker.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Craver. Thank you for keeping our equipment in good working order. Roll call, Ms.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. Approval of the minutes for January 2nd, 2018, which is our reorganization meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. Approval of minutes for January 22nd, 2018, which was our regular meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Abstain.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. Okay, resolutions 2018-39, which is approving resolution to declare gypsy moth a public nuisance.
So moved.
Second.
Doug, you want to tell the public what this is about?
Okay, this is part of what is required to participate in the state Gypsy Moth Spraying Program. We have approximately 81 acres at the northeastern portion of the township between Route 206, approximately Koreans Road, although it runs a little bit on the other side of the road on those properties, down to Moore Road. That general area in there, there's 3 blocks across there, a total of about 81 acres. And in order to participate in the program, this is part of the process that the state requires us to do.
Thank you.
Doug, if they're gonna make us do this ordinance and write it, and Joe has to read and all that good stuff, they can let us spray what we want.
You never know allow stray what they have approved.
I just thought I would ask.
Roll call?
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates? Mayor Parton?
Yes. Resolution 2018-40, authorizing approval to place a temporary mobile home trailer on personal property.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call?
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes. Resolution 2018-41, authorizing a contract for the purchase of a 2004 case grader.
I'll make it.
Second.
Discussion?
I wanted absolutely no parts of doing this, because I was a little concerned about the fact that we're spending 40 grand of capital money and not taking the opportunity to be able to roll it over next year. So I came here tonight not going to vote for this, but I do want to make a comment. The grader we have is 1980 grader, and it's actually in pretty good shape. However, Doug has been pretty persistent with this and has worked with Lakewood to get a grader that is a 2004 grader. It doesn't have a lot of hours on it. It's only got about 350 some hours on it. So one thing I'd asked him about back when we initially talked about this in December was looking at other municipalities to have some kind of agreement to scrape roads, because this only gets about 8 or 10 uses a year. And he's done that with a neighboring municipality. So we'll be doing some grading of other roads. So I will support this purchase of the grader just because of Doug's persistence and also the efforts he made to try to find another use for it, and the fact that it's a grader that's a pretty good shape. So I would support this.
Doug, the grader that we have, is that resaleable? And if it is, how much do you think we could realize for the sale of that thing?
Yes, it is resaleable. We'll probably, I'm going to be conservative, say that we should at least get $10,000 out of it. I'm hoping to do better, but as a conservative, that's what I'm going to say we should be able to get out of our deals.
So as a trade-in, we're looking at $30,000 for a grader with 350,000 miles. And we are
350 hours.
350 hours. And
We've got 14,000.
14,000, okay. That sounds like a pretty good trade-off.
And actually, the grader that we have is in decent shape. I mean, it's got oil in the engine, which is not a big deal. We all used to do, but this is, he did good work to get this. I support it.
Okay.
And it's a case. I don't even like case tractors, but I'll buy this one because it's good for the township.
Roll call.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes. 2018-42, resolution approving a raffle and bingo license for the HSA Tabernacle.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion, roll call?
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes. Okay. Motion for parade permit, approving a parade permit for the 2018 Curly Fern Enduro for South Jersey Enduro Riders Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
A parade permit, approving a parade permit for the PBER Clock Run Pine Barrens Enduro Riders.
So moved.
Second.
And I will note that on both of these permits, all the fees and insurance are all up to date. Roll call?
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes. Okay, old business. Under old business, the first discussion, we're going to talk about a public safety director position and the specifications. Would you like me to open it to the public, to hear the public comments first, and then we can talk as a committee? Is that okay? Okay. So we're going to open this to the public. Anyone that wants to speak about the public safety director's position, as you know, last year we passed an ordinance for a public safety director, And if we're in agreement tonight, what we will do is we will do a request for proposal for that position, and we will have a subcommittee, we'll interview the applicants, and hopefully make a selection and move forward. So if you're interested in talking about this subject, please come forward, state your name, address, and any comments you may have. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. Stuart Brooks, 78 Moores Meadow Road. I read both versions that the committee has in front of them, which I call the Kramer version and the Barton version. As I understand it, the one version, Mr. Kramer's has the public safety director supervising 4 units, fire, EMS, OEM, and JIP, but that the public safety director is also responsible to do the work of the OEM coordinator and JIP safety coordinator. That person also wears the other hats. And it seems to me that it's a bad idea to have someone, in essence, supervising themselves. That's no supervision at all. And I think that also increases the responsibilities of the public safety director, which my understanding is this is going to be more of an oversight and part-time position, but by giving that person those extra duties, I think that might goose up the responsibilities to a greater level than they should be or that was initially considered. The other version, Mayor Barton's version, also has the public safety director supervising the same 4 units, but it seems, as I read it, that all of the duties of each of those units are distributed to others or are done within those units. In other words, EMS chief would handle EMS, fire would handle fire, would be someone doing OEM who's not the public safety director, and there'd be someone handling the JIP who also would not be the public safety director. And that to me seems a cleaner way to organize it. It seems like a more responsible way to organize it because there's a supervisory position over all of the people who are actually doing the work, if you will. And it also reduces the scope of the work to something more in keeping with a part-time job, which is what the position is. So if you're voting for one versus the other, it seemed to me that Mr. Barton's version was able to build onto Mr. Kramer's version and did so in a better way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Anyone else from the public? Mrs. Brooks.
Fran Brooks, Moores Meadow Road. Just to back up a little bit, can we confirm, because I just confirm what's on this agenda, that in fact the public safety director position and the OEM safety coordinator position are being kept separate? So each of those will be separate part-time jobs, because on the agenda under old business, you do show that there'll be notice for, or an RFP for the emergency management safety coordinator. If that's, would you confirm that you're going to?
Well, that'll be the decision of the 5 folks that are sitting here tonight, Mrs. Brooks. So after we hear the public portion, we will have a dialogue and we will decide what type of request for proposal goes out for the public safety director.
Okay. So the agenda is not exactly accurate, but that's okay. I'd just like to echo what Mr. Brooks said, that it's a little bit hard if you're going to have your public safety director be your OEM for there to be proper monitoring. I mean, there's an inherent conflict in that, and I would think that you wouldn't want to set up that situation. It's just better to have someone at the top monitoring all 4 groups as expressed in the Mayor Barton version. And I would say that first of all, Mayor Barton's proposal is nice and solid. It's good and solid, and it represents a real part-time job, whereas if you add OEM into it, you add safety work, setting aside the whole conflict, that's going to be a full-time job. That will be a full-time plus job. I think the conflict is really the most important issue, though, when it comes to those two positions. And I think you'd be safer, and it would be better and more productive if you kept those two positions separate and let the public safety director oversee the 4 components that you, Mr. Barton, outlined in your version. Let's see if there's anything else I really want to say about that. And I do want to bring up another point in support of keeping them separate. Colonel Lowe at the last meeting outlined for the committee and the public really how many events he held as OEM coordinator, how many people were involved, and how many hours those events actually translated to. And it was extensive. It was over thousands of hours, I believe. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was 61 events, I believe, handled by 61 volunteers, and equaling quite a few hours, an extensive number of hours. I don't know how you can ask your public safety director, setting aside again the conflict with one person actually overseeing himself or herself, this could be a female, actually handling all of those OEM responsibilities. It's just not in the cards. So I would hope that you would take that into consideration. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public that would like to come forward and comment on this subject? Okay, if not, we're going to close the public portion and we'll open it up to a discussion with the Township Committee.
One comment that I noted, I may not have read this as carefully as I could have to have a better understanding of this item, but I think under one proposal, the person reports to the township administrator, and I think under the other proposal, it seems to report position on a monthly basis to the township committee. And if that's the way I'm reading it, if that's indeed is the case, I really think there needs to be a person to whom someone reports. I don't think they should just be kind of floating out there and not have somebody who supervises their activities. So, I think that needs to be better defined, and I really don't think anybody who sits on this committee should be involved in the direct day-to-day supervision of an employee. So I would, for my way of thinking, I think the position should report to to the township administrator. The comment that the Brooks made on the separate OEM director, I think is an excellent one, and I think that should be a separate position. And really, Dr. Brooks outlined the reasons very well why that should be. It's just too big a job. So they were, other than that, I think the two proposals are very, very similar in content. And although the one, again, to my way of thinking, seems to have a lot more detail, and I kind of like the more detail that's in there as it outlines the position. So that's kind of the way that I see it, Mr. Mayor.
So you like the Kramer version or the Barton version?
Well, I don't like to say one or the other.
Because they're both nice guys.
Well, that's not it. Both proposals are solid. Both of them are probably 90% the same. With the one or two differences that I just mentioned. So, to me, whatever proposal is adopted should have, probably some pieces from the other one because they are so close. And what they say, the big things for me would be, if you want to look at it one versus the other, I think we should take the supervision issue and put that in whatever one's used, and take the OEM director and put that also in that one, which would be taking something from each of them and adding something to each of them. And then I guess if you want to pick one, if that's what we're doing, I like the one which is Mr. Kramer's, because it does have much more detail about what the responsibilities of the position are. Although Joe's proposal covers a lot of that stuff. It's just not exactly in the same detail. So, but they're like 90% the same. So.
And I have to agree with Rick. I mean, when we directed Doug to do this, we had him looking at it from different angles. We originally said combined position, so he went and did what we asked. And ultimately, we agreed at the time, we were going to decide whether it was going to be one or two positions, but we asked him to do it as one position, so we got what we asked for. And now it's just a matter of taking, and I agree with Rick, some of each and polishing it and moving it forward.
You want my input now? Sure. I think we need to take the Office of Emergency Management and keep that separate. And as far as the Public Safety Director, yes, Rick is 100% correct. That person should be answering to the administrator because we oversee the administrator. So ultimately, everything will be coming to us, but there has to be a chain of commands.
I wasn't real keen on separating the positions when we initially talked about this, but I think you guys bring up a lot of good points. One thing I will throw out there is the way that the OEM currently is structured, and Doug, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the OEM essentially reports directly to the committee. And does it make sense to have public safety and OEM continuing, well, OEM's going to do that anyway, theoretically. But does it make sense to have the public safety director report directly to the committee? But then in terms of the budgetary portion of it, go through the administrator? Because I think one of the things that we're challenged with is a lot of the day-to-day decisions and we're dealing with a lot of stuff here, and it's really not the executive branch's decision process. So I guess what I'm asking is, I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Does it make sense to have the public safety director and the OEM coordinator both reporting to the committee, and then doing the same thing we do now with OEM, which is doing the budget side to Doug? I guess my point is, I think if you have it set up to where you have the expectation from the public safety director to get a report regularly, we're taking one cog out of the equation by Doug, where's the report? Doug, where's public works report? Doug, where's this? Doug, where's this? We're doing a lot of that now, which is one of the whole points we don't want to do that. Right, exactly. That was one of the whole points we wanted to create this position anyway. I think I'm okay with, I think we ought to have the director report directly to the committee, but from the budgetary side of it and the day-to-day operations in terms of money specifically, it ought to go to Doug, the administrative side of it. I think it just takes it's one less thing for Doug to worry about in terms of the direct reporting.
But do you agree with separating the two positions, keeping them separate?
Yeah, I mean, you guys made a lot of sense, and the proposals that have been put together, it probably makes sense.
Well, the way I'm looking at it is, God forbid we do have a major emergency, the Office of Emergency Management steps up first and forefront. They run the show.
Right.
The public safety director would just be assisting. But as far as an administration standpoint, they would oversee and every department answers to them. So I do understand your point of maybe both positions should directly report to us. But Doug still has to do the budgetary aspect.
Yeah. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, to facilitate coming up with a common document, I bet if we'll take this document here, which has them separated, and I'm going to go by each section and see if we can come to a consensus of what stays and what goes. In this case, it's a separate position. It's a public safety director. The basic function, if you read the two, they are almost identical. The difference is that in the basic function, it's spelled out that the public safety director assists the OEM coordinator when disasters or major emergencies are declared within the jurisdictional boundaries of the Township of Tabernacle. So, that was spelled out so that there's no question that if there is a disaster, the OEM coordinator is the lead, not the public safety director. And then the divisions that report to the public safety director are EMS, fire, OEM/CERT, and JEF. We want to change that in any way.
I think it's quiet, and I can keep going.
Can I just make one comment about the JIF?
Yeah, Doug.
The JIF safety officer will report, not the JIF fund commissioner and all that.
The JIF safety
The
officer.
officer.
Okay. So it should say JIF safety.
Safety.
Yeah, that's-
Safety coordinator.
That's $10,000 more dollars.
So we'll change the division of the last one of the JIF safety coordinator. Okay, as far as the duties, you can see act as liaison to state police, to Berlin County Director of Public Safety, county, state meetings, conduct monthly meetings with the department heads, responsible for dedication, effective, and efficient utilization of emergency assets and equipment within the township, coordinate public safety events and the participation in divisions of public safety at public events. Responsible for coordinating the yearly budgets from the divisions, not preparing the budgets, but each of the departments would prepare, or divisions would prepare their budgets, and the public safety director would coordinate them, and work with the administrator developing a budget. Maintain training records for all divisions. That doesn't mean they'll do the records. The divisions have their own records. He just has to have the records and access to the records. That includes update of volunteer members as they change, rosters, etc. Responsible for recommendations to Township Committee concerning any revisions in policy, rules, and regulations for the Division of Fire, Emergency Medical Services, and Office of Emergency Management, and execution of any approved revisions. Responsible for the enforcement of all contracts with the Division of Fire and Division of Emergency Medical Services. Responsible for receiving and verifying the LoSAP points and duty percentages, and make the recommendations for the distribution of the LoSAP funds to the Township Committee. Identify and implement precautionary measures to mitigate against potential hazards. Annually review and approve the Township's basic emergency operations plan.
Mayor, that is the state responsibility of the emergency management coordinator.
Okay. So the OEM coordinator approves it, so what we would say is annually review and approve that? Okay, thank you, Doug. Assist the OEM coordinator when disasters are declared. And again, in his duties, it's spelled out that he or she is not the lead when a disaster is declared. Probably don't need to put records because we talked about records up there. Act as a department head, keep the mayor, deputy mayor, committee, and administrator informed and updated on all unusual emergency situations. So that was the duties. Is there any other duties we want to add? And then qualifications, there is a difference in the qualifications. In the first version, the education was pretty much the same. The difference being a resident of Tabernacle versus being a resident of Burlington County.
Joe, could we consider saying in there that priority will be given to residents of Tabernacle Township?
We could do that.
I think the only thing that concerns me a wee bit there is if we hire somebody from, let's say, far northern Burlington County, up in Robbinsville or out in Willingboro or something, you know, we're then bringing somebody on board who really isn't close. And while that may be our only option based on resumes received, I understand that. I think we should give a little, you know, a little kick or a little push to somebody who does live locally, because I think it's very important that it be somebody who is close by that holds this position.
I don't know that I disagree with that, but I don't really want to put it in the document.
Well, what if we put Burlington County resident comment priority to a qualified Tabernacle Township?
Pete, yet you open yourself up for discrimination by doing that. I think that might be an issue. I mean, I don't disagree with you at all.
Maybe Peter can give us some direction on that.
I don't disagree with you at all, but I don't know if you want to put that in the document.
Maybe Peter can tell us if we can do that or not.
Certainly can do that. I mean, discrimination relates to discrimination of potential or class, race, religion, sexual preference, and those kinds of things. And so there is no potential discrimination claim in making that distinction.
There are a lot of jobs for municipalities. In the state, you must be a resident of that municipality. You know, I mean, to me, it's nice because if you have someone from Tabernacle, they know the town. That's the plus I see. They have some, you know.
You're going to limit the pool, though, for future communities.
Sure, you absolutely limit the pool, but to put priority to Tabernacle resident.
By putting a priority, you're indicating for those to come after you that you'd like them to have priority. Obviously, the reasons have been discussed tonight, but to, you know, Tabernacle is a relatively small rural community. In the future, you would probably want to have a broader pool of candidates. You might find somebody who's just over the border who's exceptional. And so to recognize that priority for the reasons indicated may be appropriate, but you know, the other side of that coin is to unduly limit the pool. You know, it could be difficult, create some difficulty.
So I wrote it this way. Burlington County resident comment with a priority to a qualified Tabernacle Township resident.
Works for me.
How about priority but not limited to?
Let me ask you a question. Let's say you lived outside the township and you were highly qualified, and then you read that application. Would you even apply for it?
No.
I wouldn't. Depends on whether or not you wanted the job.
Yeah, but what I mean.
I'm not saying we don't have qualified people within this town to do the position. I mean, we all know of several, but I mean, if you're looking to open it up, why on earth would we put that in there? You just might as well say to any township resident and throw the application out there. Because personally, I wouldn't apply.
I see your point. I don't think you want to hire anybody that's in Hamilton Township.
Oh, no.
But if somebody's on the wrong end of Suey Place Road, and then I think they ought to have a chance.
Well, I'm just saying, if there's somebody in Medford.
I mean, the wrong end of Suey Place Road. You know, all parts of Suey Place Road are great. I've been here a month. I mean, you know.
They could live in Speedwell.
They can live in Speedwell. Exactly.
So what Joe is saying is that you also, at the same time, conversely, don't want to chill the desire of qualified applicants that might otherwise apply.
So maybe you don't mention the word tabernacle, but you say something along the lines, somebody who lives in close proximity to the township or something.
Priority will be given to qualified candidates within a acceptable geographic area.
That's good too.
Doesn't it just come down to as you're reading the applications? Really?
Yes,
You
it
need
does.
to put it in there?
That's why I said don't put it don't put it in there. That's why I said leave it where it was.
I mean, there's so many highly qualified people in this close proximity to us anyway, and many within Tabernacle.
Some of them are in this room.
So, at the end of the day, it's a matter of what you're looking at on paper when you get it and speaking to them.
I think what it's in close proximity to the municipality.
County, and, I mean, I hear
At the minimum,
consensus
you
is,
have to be in Burlington.
Bronte County resident.
I mean, we're going to give preference to a
We're going
qualified
to go
Tabernacle
through
resident.
the
right?
application. Of course, well, I'm just saying, if you're looking to receive applicants, I mean, don't restrict it.
So we're okay
I
with
mean, you may have somebody that used to be a township resident, moved out of the town, and is highly qualified, and then they read that and they go, well, I guess I can't help Tabernacle out.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's kind of like our building inspector that just bumped in the room.
Yeah.
And as far as training, Doug, I don't know what the training requirements are of a public safety director at the municipal, county, and state or federal levels, but I put it in there. Okay. Are there qualifications? I don't know, but if there are or ever become, they would have to qualify.
Yeah, there's probably standards that we'll be looking for that if they don't have, there'll probably be some requirements in the jail, there'll be some requirements in the county.
But if you split the positions, and a lot of the mandated requirements are covered by the LEMA. So we kind of fix that by separating the positions.
And I would add Doug's last bullet point, since this individual is going to have to work with the administrator, the ability to prepare and manage budgets, reports, and work with the township. I would add work with the township administrator.
That amplifies. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so with those changes, we have a motion for township clerk to put a request for proposal and advertise for this position.
So moved.
Okay, roll call?
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
I don't agree with the reporting lines in this, where the position reports to the township committee, so I'm going to have to vote no on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. Okay, so Ms. Sherman, we will advertise this, and when you get that advertisement, Joe Yates and Stephen Lee were on the Public Safety Committee, and I would ask if they're willing to, once the applications come in, to review them, conduct interviews, and make recommendations for Public Safety Director to the Township Committee in a timely fashion.
Can we have the flexibility to be able to include anyone else on that subcommittee, if we so choose?
I think as long as we do it in twos, Peter, we're okay. You don't have three people together?
Yeah, I'm not talking about other committee members, I'm talking about other folks that are, do we have the flexibility to be able to include other members of our community that could have, other members of the public, that could have perhaps a special interest in this particular arena? Like, for example, if we want to bring Doug into the discussion, if we want to bring perhaps the fire chief into the discussion, the squad chief into the discussion, do we have the flexibility to do that?
You can always do that. You know, the subcommittee makes up its own rules, so to speak, as to how they want to conduct their business.
Okay.
So you would always, any subcommittee would have the flexibility to gather information from any source or talk to any person in the performance of their assigned duty.
Okay.
I'd also like the opportunity though to, what Joe was originally going down the road.
It's hard to hear.
Actually getting into the
Candidates.
candidates too.
And Peter, I mean, since this is an important position, is there a form that we could meet the candidates as a group? Or is that not permitted?
You wouldn't be able to meet in a deliberation as a full committee. So you could meet separately with candidates.
Okay. So Kim, if Stephen and Joe interview half a dozen candidates, Rick, Kim, or I are free to talk to those candidates?
Correct, yes.
We
You
did
just
that.
can't deliberate together.
Yeah, we've done that before. We did that when Ken Baranowski resigned. We did that with his seat.
Okay, thank you.
Kim and Rick and Joe and I all interviewed.
Is that what you're looking for, Mr. Brandt?
Yes.
Good, okay. Okay, the next discussion is emergency service contract for a request for proposals. We want to open, we did open both of these topics to the public last time, and we can open up to the public. We'll do that first before we have a discussion.
I'm fine with public comment, but as far as the committee making a decision, I think we should actually table that and wait until we hear, once we pick a public safety director, get the input from them.
How's the rest of the committee feel?
Well, I think if you're going to do that, then you should enter into the contract that has been sitting for 2 years for the SWAT. I mean, I think we keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. So, you know, we have a contract that's been sitting out there for a while. If we're going to push it off again while we're waiting to hire a public, because we don't have a time frame as to when we're going to hire a public safety director, I think it's only fair to us and them to have a contract so it's spelled out what's expected for both entities.
The contract's going to get updated.
Well,
It's not updated.
that could be done quick enough. I'm just saying, I think if we're going to push it off and table it, I think in fairness, we should enter into a contract for now.
Well, let's on a timeline. When could you get that advertisement in the paper? And typically, how long do you advertise it for? Is it 14 days?
For contract,
Yeah, for the public safety director.
I can, if I send it to the paper, say tomorrow, it'll publish on Friday. Depending on where else you would like to have the ad published. Did you bring the municipalities, Raleigh County Times, clerk's website?
So how long would, when would the request be due back if we were to put it out on Friday? Is it 2 weeks? Is that what we do?
At least 10 days.
10 days, okay. So we put it out 10 days, that gets us for our next meeting, but of course you have to have time to conduct interviews. And is it something that you could have done before the end of March, before our
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be in March.
I think we could potentially have the applicants received and probably go through the subcommittee and maybe meet with Kim or you or Rick, maybe one or two, but I'm thinking.
But it's pushing it, and this is
Yeah.
something that's really important for this township and the committee, and we got to do it and do it right.
So,
I don't know that we have to have a time frame.
okay.
No, what I'm
So I'm
saying,
looking
that's
if-
fine.
If LaShawn was to advertise on a Friday with the request back on the 16th, which is a Friday, our meeting after that are the 26th and also the 9th. Is that enough time by the 9th to have a recommendation, to have all the interviews completed?
April 9th?
Which would be 1, 2, 3 full weeks
April.
after the requests come back?
April 9th?
Yes.
That would give us roughly a month to review the applicants.
Gives you over a month. It goes in Friday.
Goes on Friday, but you're not
No,
going
no.
to start getting stuff back right away.
We'll give you 3 weeks. If the proposals were due back on the 16th, it would give you 3 full weeks before the next meeting, which would be April 9th.
Which means you're going to advertise it on Friday. Do you want to advertise it more than once?
Oh, we got to send the paper, get more.
Friday and Sunday. It'll be on our website. And then you have, you want it back by when?
The 16th?
March?
Yeah.
advertise it twice in the paper and go on 10 times, and then
It's actually 11 work days and 3 weekends. Or actually 2 weekends, two full weekends.
We're going to, the subcommittee, I'm not going to speak for Joe, we'll be able to make a recommendation to the committee on the 23rd of April. Mrs. Brown, nor will I, will be here on the 9th.
Okay.
So that's all.
What date were you talking about? It's really hard to hear.
23rd of April.
Thank you.
Yep.
And of course, that's assuming we get something that meets our expectations.
Exactly.
So Joe, you would like to propose the EMS, either request for proposal or a contract until after a public safety director is in place?
Correct.
Rick, do you have some comment on it?
Well,
How do you feel?
In all honesty, I oppose the entire RFP process in itself, and will be voting against that. So whether we have that discussion tonight, when everybody's here and we can participate in that discussion like they want to do, or we have it on the 23rd or some later date, from the way I look at things, doesn't matter. Because like I said, I don't think there should be an RFP. I agree with what Mrs. Brown said a few minutes ago. We had a contract that we wanted to sign 2 years ago. We didn't do it.
That's not
in my
accurate.
opinion, that we didn't do it.
That's not
We should update that. That's not signed, is it?
It's not complete.
Well,
I mean,
it
it's
should
not
be
even-
updated. It should be
Yeah,
updated and put in place. And
I
then
will give
signed.
you, I'll give you updated.
So
I'll give you that one.
You know, we should have done it before. And so whether or not we postpone it, I think it's postponed. It's a disservice to all the people who came out here tonight to speak their minds.
absolutely.
Steve?
Rick, I apologize for interrupting you. But the contract for the rescue squad is pretty complicated because there's been a lot of changes that have happened since the initial discussions back in, I'd say about March of 2016. There's a lot of things the squad's done differently since then. There's a lot of things that have changed. So I think at the very least, any kind of a contract has to be revised. I will also say this, that I am of the belief that as a responsibility to the taxpayer, and as we've done with every other professional position that we've done, going back to Mr. Lang sitting here and Dan Guzzi at the end of the table, any professional we hire, we go through an RFP process. We do that every December. We've done that as long as I've been sitting on committee. And I think it's irresponsible to enter into a contract with an organization without the proper vetting of an RFP process. Now, I'm not saying that I want an RFP to go out and get somebody else because we have a 45-year relationship with the Tabernacle Rescue Squad. But I think in fairness, I think it's important to go through the process of the request for proposals like we would do with any other professional we hire. But I also am of the belief that it's irresponsible for us to go through an RFP process when we've gone through the efforts of putting together a public safety director position that is supposed to be doing this kind of work in the first place. So I think frankly, I believe that it's irresponsible of us to make any decisions about a contract or about an RFP process until we get the person that we're going to hire hired. And they can do this work because that's their responsibility as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not interested in talking about RFPs. I'm not interested in talking about contracts. We have an ordinance with the Tabernacle Rescue Squad. As far as we're concerned, they're not going anywhere, nor should they go anywhere. And I don't want to talk about it until we get the first step of the process is to get the public safety director position done and fleet, and we also need to do our OEM position, by the way. I think the EMS RFP process is something that's on the back burner if we do it at all. But I also recognize, I guess Mr. Franz has indicated that there are folks here that want to talk about it. That's fine, but I think it's irresponsible for us to make any kind of a decision at this stage of the game.
Can I just make a statement?
Sure.
Well, I'm just saying, because I spoke once, I just wanted to, I get what you're saying about RFPs for the attorney, the engineer, and things like that. How can you group the EMS with such professionals? Because if you do go that leap, then you have to do the same with the fire company, which makes no sense because we have a contract with them. They're the same entity, but just do different services. They both do the same thing. They're both volunteers. They both come out. 911 gets called. Everybody shows up. Prime example, Friday night, lots of ambulances, lots of fire trucks. People showed up. People helped out. So I can't understand how you can group that with the RFP for the solicitor and the engineer. And I'm not attacking you. I'm just saying I don't understand it. It don't make sense to me. Because those are paid professionals that are earning their living, providing their services. These are volunteers. And I didn't sign up to fire volunteers. And I know you said you may not even want to go that route. But I'm just saying, you're going down that route when you put out an RFP. It looks like you have no faith in the people that live in your town that are providing the services. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's not entirely fair, because I just got done saying I don't want to do the RFP tonight.
Right, but tonight, I don't want to do it at all like Mr. Franz.
Or at all. I mean, I want to do it all, but I sure as heck am not going to do it until we get a public safety director here.
Well, what I'm just saying is we've been talking about a contract, and it's been very important on your plate.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is if you have a draft contract that you can just update and fill in the blanks, and it'll make everybody happy, why not just do it? Why not just do it? And if you have to revisit it next year when you're revisiting all the contracts for both emergency services, do it then. But at least in fairness, let people have some kind of comfort zone that RFP isn't going out next month and the volunteers have just been fired. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you got to understand what it looks like from the other side. It looks like we're going after our volunteers.
I don't buy that at all, but I hear your point. And as I said, I think we ought to table the entire discussion and get the public safety director in place. This is my opinion. So I'd be happy to listen to anybody, but I'm not interested. I'm not going to vote for anything tonight.
I agree. I would like to see the public safety director in that position and take advantage of the qualifications, and hopefully we select a very good public safety director who comes with some strong background that can give us some good recommendations on whether to go out for a request for proposal or go out for a
But with
contract.
all due respect, someone that we're hiring that may not even live in this town shouldn't have the ability to choose whether we're using our volunteers or not. It's my opinion.
Say it again.
If we hire someone that does not live in Tabernacle, I have an issue with them deciding whether we should go out to RFP for someone other than our volunteers that are coming in and answering these calls.
I don't think that person would make that decision.
But you just gave them the power to do that. You just said that to me and see what they say.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I would like to
I'm
have
not
the benefit
comfortable
of
with
their
that.
opinion, but this committee will make that final
But
decision.
I'm just saying, I'm not comfortable with them throwing their opinion out there because, at the end of the day, these are our residents and our neighbors.
Well, hopefully the public safety director will be too.
Hopefully.
Okay, so we have three that want to table, so we're going to table the discussion on emergency medical services until after we have a public safety director in position. There will be a public portion, and during the public portion, anyone that's here that wants to talk about anything on this agenda, you're welcome to talk at that time. We also have a discussion. I'd like to appoint we have a subcommittee that is looking at shared services, and I would ask that subcommittee also review the request for proposals that were the proposal receiving for the municipal judge. And Rick, that's you and Stephen,
right,
is
yeah.
okay?
Yep, yeah, I did review some of those resumes, and maybe Steve and I can get together and
Okay.
talk about that. I think,
Deadline is
The 28th?
28th, right?
The 28th is the deadline, we'll have them all in by then. And I would ask that you and Stephen review them and conduct interviews, and if anyone else on the committee wants to interview the judges, that at that time, and hopefully you'll give us a
and
recommendation.
I think too, there's at least two that I think are serious candidates, and I think that if we can arrange for it, we need to sit in their courtroom and see how they run their courts. I know
Okay.
most of us have sat in this courtroom to see our current judge.
On the good side.
On the good side, yes, on the good side. And know that he runs a pretty good show. I mean, I don't want to talk this whole thing out right now, but I think if we look to do that, we can come back
Okay.
with recommendations.
Good, okay, so Stephen and you will look at all the requests for proposals for the judgeship, and
Yeah, that's closed, I think, Joe, right? Isn't
the
it?
28th is the last day of the proposals.
Okay, I'm sorry, I think they're closed.
Yeah, LaShawn has given us what she has received to date.
Got it.
She'll be giving you the rest after the 28th.
Okay.
Okay, and also I'd like to have a motion to authorize the municipal clerk to advertise for the position of chief financial officer, and also a second position of emergency management coordinator.
So moved.
Second.
The emergency management coordinator would also include the
Safety coordinator?
safety coordinator.
Okay. Okay, so we have motions to go out for requests for proposals for chief financial officer and emergency management coordinator / safety coordinator. And LaShawn, will you be able to do these at the same time, that same type of timeline?
Yeah, we can get them back. I'll send them out as soon as possible and try to have them back.
Because
We want to do one day because it is quite expensive.
the chief financial officer we have time with.
Well, we'll put that on we do have time, we'll put that on the municipality's website, the first website.
Yes. Well, let me ask the committee, do we need to be in such a rush for that CFO position? Terry's going to be with us till July. Should we delay that and advertise that at a later date and get some of this other stuff off our plate?
No, I think we need to move on that now because we had a difficult time when we replaced our CFO the last time. It did take some time
Okay.
to get one, so properly vet someone, we
Okay.
need time.
I'm sorry, I have the motion by Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Second.
Still a motion by Mr. Rivera. And I think Mrs. Brown was the second.
Okay, roll call.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Franson.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yeah.
Mayor Gurke.
Yes. Okay. Under new business, our administrator prepared a list of municipal property that we own. And Doug and I met and revisited the possibility of putting this up for sale and hopefully getting it in the hands of responsible parties that would make good use of this property, put it back on the tax rolls. And Doug, we want to go over the properties one by one and talk a little bit about those properties and what can and can not happen on those properties.
Okay. The first one I have is 10 Richter Road, block 326, lot 8. It is a corner piece that meets down to Moore Road. We've had expressed interest from the neighboring property owner. My only request is that we use the lower end towards the point towards Moore Road as a restriction for drainage easement across there.
So you're suggesting that we put an easement on that property?
Yes.
Before it's sold?
Yes.
And is that something our engineer can do?
Yeah, we've actually, that's one of the properties that we had surveyed last year, or the year before. So on the sale, that could be included in on the survey.
Okay. And so about how big is that? Is that a buildable lot, or is that a lot that would have to be merged with another lot?
I'm not sure it's a buildable lot. to see whether it's a buildable lot, but I think it will be added to the existing lot. It appears to be that it is large enough to be buildable, but I'm not sure that the lower end of it with the easement on it would be sufficient.
Is that something Dan can help us with and determine, that when we build, if we all, as a group here, decide to advertise these, that they're advertised, what they really are, so we get the maximum value?
Yes. Okay. Next one is 106 Fork Neck Road, that's block 1401, lot 2. It's approximately a 2-acre piece, almost 2 acres, not quite. On Fork Neck Road, we've had interest expressed from actually both neighboring property owners. To look at that.
Is that next to the gun club?
Yes, it is.
Is that the property that causes one of them,
Yes.
like 15 years ago?
At least
On
5
the LEV?
Yeah.
We sell it. I'm being serious. I can remember being sure the LEV, which was a while ago.
I guess because
Is
of
it the same piece
this.
of property?
Yeah, I seriously did make
A serious offer.
a serious offer. I just said if we ever wanted to sell it. And for a time, we thought Public Works might pay for it, but at one point in time.
But Doug, is that the lot that Oz has encroached on?
Yes.
That's right.
So,
Hence the,
is it possible to split that? I mean, would,
I think you're probably better off putting it out there and see who's willing to spend those.
okay.
In the interest.
I guess my concern is if you put it out the bid and the gun club buys it,
Then,
do they have a claim against Haas for encroaching on that lot?
well, the encroachment actually is not on our lot. It is that they've removed the slope on their lot that they're required to have. So they'll either have to put that back,
Okay,
or recreate it once they go out.
okay, so they really haven't touched the lot that the township's on, but they've done things to their property adjacent to
So
it
that
that impacts that lot?
impacts that lot.
Okay.
67 Richter Road, block 324, lot 15. It's a 2-acre lot between Hill Road and Kramer. And presently appears to be a buildable lot, as far as I can tell. Has no value to the township. So I'd like to remove it from our rules and hopefully get it to a more suitable use and maintain taxes on it. 32 Woodside Drive, block 309, lot 17.
Doug, can I go back to Richter Road?
Yes.
Would that be possible if somebody bought that, subdivide that, and put it back into 2 lots?
I would have to check with Pinelands, but that was done previously in other double lots. There was a local builder that made a few-year run of doing that consistently in there. So I don't know whether that would
The
happen.
reason why I'm asking, because it was originally, should have been 2 lots.
It was never officially subdivided, so it was a double lot.
That would be a decision on finance.
Yeah. Now, whether it would behoove us to go to Pinelands and ask that, and then subdivide it, that's whether we would get more money out of it that way as 2 single lots.
That's what I'm wondering.
And Peter can give us some thoughts on what that would be to do that process. We can look at it and see what we think. Talk to our assessor and see what he thinks a double lot's worth versus what 2 single lots are worth.
You know, I mean, if you're going to sell it for an auction and you could assure that it's a double lot that is buildable with 2 properties.
You'd have to subdivide it in advance, yeah.
Okay. That's something we could do.
I mean, why would we sell a piece of property if in fact there is a possibility it could be subdivided? And whoever buys it is able to get 2 lots instead of 1. You know what I mean?
You either set a minimum price with that in mind and allow them to have the expense of subdividing it, but you price it as two lots as your minimum bid. You could do it that way also. You could get these prices on what you think and look at it and see whether it's worth us doing it or whether it's, you set the minimum bid at that.
That would be something we could ask Jack.
Yep.
We'll follow up with Jay with
Yep.
that.
We're back at 32 Woodside, block 309, lot 17. It's an acre lot at the top of the hill, just before Ann. I'm not sure either property owner, the adjoining property owner will be happy, but it is a buildable lot. So maybe one of the adjoining property owners may want to purchase it. And I have Goose Pond Road, block 1502, lot 5. Was the one we were asked about before, that was in the previous discussion. And my recommendation is if we sell that, we group that with 4.01, 4.02, and 4.03 and sell it as a block. Those lots are not buildable because of wetlands.
The 3 aren't.
The 3 are.
Right. The other one, I believe there is.
There may be one housing opportunity on that.
There is some high ground on that piece that where a house could be put.
You thinking lot 5 is buildable, Joe?
Not the whole entire lot, but there is, I'd say maybe a quarter of it that's on high ground.
We've had an adjacent property owner ask, and we've had interest from a hunting club.
What will we need to do to determine if that's buildable? That lot 5? Would you have
The only
to
way we
survey it, the wetlands?
Yeah, you would have to.
I have to do a wetland delineation. So I'm not sure if it's that much. Yeah. Big money.
Okay.
We could do a preliminary
Yeah.
wetland elimination based on the state aerials to see for that, just to get a handle on.
So you can give it a quick go or no go, Dan, and
Yeah, but it's not going to be definitive, it's just going to give you an idea.
He'll be able to say whether it's absolutely not possible and not worth any further investigation, or whether or not, subject to confirmation, you know, it could be worked out.
Exactly.
can we, Doug, can you work with Dan and get that determination? And
Yep.
And we'll proceed accordingly?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you want me to move into the municipal tax limit at this point, or more discussion?
You have any more properties?
No.
To go?
That's all I have. There are more township properties, but these are the only ones I've got.
Okay, now, yeah, let's talk about the tax lien. Peter, we put down some property.
Before you move on, the sale would have to be conducted by ordinance, so just so that that's clear.
Okay, so we would need a motion and a second, or at least a vote to direct you to draft the
I would just be, instructed to move in that direction in conjunction with Doug to list the properties, and whenever you wanted it on the agenda, it would have to be an ordinance.
Okay. Is everyone okay with Peter working up an ordinance?
Yes.
For these
Would you like
110
a
Richter
motion?
So moved.
Okay. We got a motion and a second.
Second.
Anybody opposed? Everybody for it? Yay?
Yay.
Okay. So it'll be 10 Richter, 106 Fort Neck Road, 67 Richter after we determine whether it could be a double lot or not, 32 Woodside, after we determine if it's a buildable lot. And then Goose Pond Road, after Dan makes a preliminary assessment of whether it's a go or no-go buildable lot. And then you and Peter will draft up that ordinance, and when it's done, we'll move forward.
Dan and I will determine on 10 Richter the drainage easement.
Okay, yes, that's right, yeah, drainage easement on 10 Richter.
Preliminary, yeah.
So the drainage easement.
Okay.
You want to have that in advance of the ordinance, Dan, so we have that survey, so you can.
So Doug and I had a discussion about, we took down some buildings and we put a tax lien on those properties. And Peter, what our question is are those liens sellable? Can we sell that? I mean, normally we can sell the tax lien, but we've invested, resources, taxpayers' resources to take down these buildings, and we've liened those properties with that value added to that.
Actually, I think, just to be clear, the property that is subject to, central to the discussion, was not any expense of the township. There was some attempts to bring it into compliance. There was some attempts to force their hand, so to speak. But nothing was ever reduced to a lien because the township never took any action. There are at least one property or two properties where there was liens that reduced, that were a result of, who took this property? Which one are we talking about? Myers is that the discussion? Yeah. So those liens are no different, in fact, exactly the same as a municipal tax lien.
Okay.
They, in fact, are a municipal tax lien. Those costs are rolled into the tax and levied just the same way the property tax is.
Okay.
And so when that lien is sold, it's no different in the process or the character and content of the actual lien.
Okay. The concern being is that if we take a property for tax liens and the taxes continue to grow, and if the township has to spend money to demolish a house and clean up the property, that gets added to it. And the longer that property sits there, the higher that bill goes. And if someone buys that lien, the interest gets added to it. Right? If they don't buy it, the interest gets added to it. And there could become a point in time where the property is not worth the value of what we are owed for the property.
Happens all the time, right? And then the township at some point conducts a process of in-rem foreclosures and takes title. Some of these properties that you spoke about tonight very likely were acquired that way.
So we just want to be cautious that we don't get to a point where that number exceeds the value of the land, and we wind up taking a loss. And Doug, we have a request.
We have a request for interest in one of those properties. And it may be in the same situation that we didn't want to get into when we add the interest in. That the principal and interest and the charges that are outstanding are $102,096. Interest being almost 37, so you're about 65,000 in principal. So you're getting to the point where this may be the time to foreclose on it, to try to get your money out of it, or if somebody wants to buy it, they really have to buy the entire thing.
It depends on was it broke, how was it assessed and lien, you know? Those liens should already be in place, you know.
They are.
Yeah, so it's not handled any different than any other municipal tax lien. It's exactly the same. And the committee has made decisions to operate and to do things with these properties, not in a cost-benefit analysis so much as to eliminate some blight or other issue in the neighborhood. And then, of course, you can recoup some and hopefully all of those costs. It doesn't always work out that way. But the decision to whether or not you felt you were going to recoup all of your funds. You did it as a question of public safety and in the interest of the neighborhood and the residents that are surrounding these properties.
That's where we are with that property. The questions are, when that was developed, the oil tank was removed, inspected and removed. There's no well on that property, and the septic, which really wasn't a septic, it was a cesspool, was filled in, but it was so there's no water, no septic, no water tank on that property.
Is there an informal offer on the property from someone?
Just some
Less than-
interest,
what's that?
just some interest now.
Just some interest.
Just some, it hasn't, I don't think they've done the research to figure out how much it is, just there was some interest in the possibility.
So if we're owed $100,000 on it, the mediation and interest and taxes and all that, if they came and offered us $75,000 for it, Peter, would we be able to accept that and get this thing back on the tax rolls, or is it that simple?
I had indicated that I would have to look at the statutes in that regard, and I was waiting for that direction. My suspicion is that through the public process, you can compromise those liens in order to put them back on the tax rolls. But I haven't looked at that chapter and verse. If the committee wants me to do that, I'm happy to do that. I'm almost certain that you have that ability to compromise the lien through some type of public process. Otherwise, it would be counterintuitive. You want to put those properties back on the tax rolls.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I think there's some flexibility, but I have not been directed to nail that down yet. It's a novel question on some level.
If we do nothing, that number's going to go up, right?
Yes.
So,
Every year it gets bigger.
yeah.
Well, because the taxes aren't getting paid, and the interest continues to increase.
Yep.
And so ultimately, they would get foreclosed on as part of some type of in-rem foreclosure process, and you'd be talking about how to sell them and put them back on the tax rolls.
Right. So if we foreclosed on it, Peter, we'd have to go through that whole process, and then we'd have to put it up for a public auction and take what the highest bidder gave us, right?
Or reject it, but yeah, essentially, you want to get it back on the tax rolls. The township's not in the business of owning land that doesn't have a public purpose.
Rick, you okay with our solicitor looking at
Oh,
this
yeah,
and advise us how to proceed with this?
It's also asked, and we have a second property that's also asked that question.
Yep. So we have two properties, Doug, that are in that same category?
Except we have no expense on the second, just the taxes, no demolition.
So the sooner we move,
Is that the letter we
the more
received?
the cost becomes.
I believe those people are present here tonight.
Excuse me, would you like to come up?
Well, she can't stand up because of her knees.
I
Okay.
just had my knees replaced.
Okay, can you speak your name and address?
Yes, my name is Joan Long. I live in Philadelphia, 6002 Keystone Street.
Okay, Joan Long. Can everybody hear Mrs. Long?
I'm sorry.
I'm asking, can everyone hear Mrs. Long?
We can.
With
Yeah.
Sean, please, with Sean.
Sean, you getting there?
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Mrs.
I sent a letter explaining the situation. My mother died in 2003. She lived at 9 Morrell Road. My brother Mark continued to live in her house until he passed away in 2016 in December. And he was a hoarder. And my other brother Eric and I cleaned out the house for 25 days. We had 6 dumpsters. We did that because my brother had guns in the house and we didn't want somebody else finding them. He also had a lot of ammunition. And we did a very thorough job cleaning this house out. And I'm asking that the municipal tax lien on the house, which is $49,654, I believe, be reduced to $40,000 so we can sell the house and have it refurbished and have, someone live in it.
Do you have someone interested in
Oh,
it?
this is my realtor and we have someone,
Okay, so you do have someone
Yes.
interested in the property?
right?
Michelle Bernard.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So-
Could you identify yourself? What agency
Yes,
are
I'm-
you representing, Ms. Long?
I am Michelle Bernard. I'm with Keller Williams Realty. I live on the wrong side of Sweet Place Road. And I'm representing her in the sale of the home.
What is she asking for? Can I vote now?
So the house has been listed for 332 days. We've had 34 people who toured the property. We've had 2 verbal offers of $30,000. I was approached recently from a cooperative agent from Alloway who has a buyer interested. And we're in negotiations to close enough point that if part of the tax lien is forgiven, we should be able to break even on the property for the family.
Okay.
And you said that, and we're talking about $6,000? Is that the difference?
49,
$9,000.
yeah, 9,654, I believe.
Buyer's breath.
Let's wait till our, we're going to just take a little break until our solicitor comes back.
Absolutely.
Okay?
You want to move on to Pepper House while we're waiting?
Yeah, well, we're going to just table that, and we'll, when our attorney gets back, we'll discuss this further. And hopefully we can come up with a resolution and get that property back on the tax rolls. Okay. Okay, our next discussion is the Pepper House. And Doug, we want to talk about the Pepper House, where we are, the history of the window repair replacement. You know, Marion Silver and her husband is here tonight, president of the Historical Society, and Marion has sent me a letter that I'll give you a copy of. And some of the paper glass have fallen out. Marion had a contractor look at it and give her a price to reglaze and paint the windows, which appears to be kicking the can down the road. We did do a bond to replace the windows, Doug. Yes, we did. And so, Doug, why don't you tell the committee and the public where we are with that, and hopefully we can get a resolution how to proceed with the Pepper House.
A number of years ago, Mary Ann provided me with an estimate of a restorer that was going to replace some of the windows, restore some of the windows. If I remember correctly, it was 40. Was that including the roof? No, that wasn't including the roof.
Oh,
That was with the doors and everything.
right. Maybe 2013.
Yeah, it was a few years ago. And that was what we based on what we went out and bonded for improvements along with a lot of other buildings. The Pepper House was included along that with some improvements. Last year, we were ready to go with the reglazing and all that, but unfortunately, the company couldn't fit us in the schedule before winter came, and as if you remember, December was very cold and probably not the greatest
Well,
time.
the rain from August and September.
Yeah.
It's going to do it in the spring, but
So we'll look back now, and it would make more sense to replace the windows. In fact, tonight, Deputy Mayor Lee and I
Why are you done, man?
went over and
Between you and
looked.
him, you guys are beating me up tonight. I don't like it. I missed 2 meetings, so what?
We went over and looked at the windows,
He's no kidding.
and they haven't gotten any better.
They need to be replaced, in my opinion, Mayor.
No, right here.
Okay. So that's where we're at. Okay. It's a decision on whether you want to divide it over 2 years or you want to do it all at once. If you're going all out at once, you're going to have to go out and bid and pay prevailing wage. If you stay below 15,444, you could quote it and not necessarily pay prevailing wage for a carpenter to do that.
Some of them, I think the 2-year, make probably a lot of sense, but some of them we absolutely do
Yes.
tomorrow, yeah, in my opinion.
Okay, can I ask a question? These windows, I take it they have to be custom made
I'm going to assume they do.
because of the historical value of the home?
I'm going to say probably because no two are probably the same dimensions.
But I don't know that, see, that's, I don't
I'm just
know.
saying, you don't want to, put in a, replacement Anderson if it's a historical home. You can't do that.
Well, let's think about this for a second.
We have to restore it the way it was.
Well, what's the true value of it? We're not gonna sell it.
No.
It's not gonna be sold by anybody. It's gonna maintain the integrity. I mean, my personal thought is, we absolutely need to get the windows done, but I think we can do it. I mean, I guess my question is gonna go to Mary Ann. You want the
please
exact?
don't put vinyl or plastic windows or aluminum windows. We want to try to keep it for the integrity of what the house is. It was built in 1860, so
This is Mary and Silver, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary Ann
Tabernacle Historical
Silvers,
Society president.
21 North Drive, president of the Historical Society.
So do you want wooden windows back in?
Well, I'm agreeable to clad on the outside and wood on the inside. I mean, clad on the outside, if it's, I don't know if it's vinyl.
A solution if it works. Why don't we contract, or, contact either the VOTEC or Seneca High School, see, wood shop would be willing to fabricate these windows if we provide them with the material.
That would work.
And then all we have to do is hire a glazer.
That would work.
Whatever direction you want me to go.
I think Mr. Yates is making a motion.
I think that would be the best way to go. This way, we accommodate the Historical Society, and we're doing it in the the most cost-efficient way. And some young kid is getting credit for it. We'll even give him a proclamation.
Give them a plaque over there too. Joe, if that doesn't work, would we agree that they could go ahead and Doug could, do his thing with the bid threshold and all that for replacement?
As long as we don't have to pay for building.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was getting. That's what I was getting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Joe, we can have Mr. Kramer look into the vocational school and high school. If that opportunity is not there, and I don't know that it won't be, but we'll at least ask.
Right.
But rather than delay this further, Anderson makes a wooden window, right? It's wood on the outside, right? And I'm sure there's other companies that make wood windows.
But it's like Doug's saying, they're all different sizes, so it's all going to be custom.
Okay.
Well, the new by Anderson are all custom to begin with. According to their advertisement on TV, they can make them any size, so they say.
Well, I'm just saying, if you want to put back the historical value on the home, as you said, it's built in 1860, to me, that's the option, the only option, is to replace it as a,
So
in kind.
if we can get one of the schools to do it, and we can do them all at a reasonable cost, or Doug would do, Deputy Mayor Lee suggested do half this year and half next year.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we contact the Lindsay District, it's got to be one of the 4 schools.
Everybody okay with that? So Doug, you know, you've got your direction, right?
Yes.
You're clear how to go. Mary, are you happy?
Vocational school.
When you step in the right direction, you step in the right direction.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So Peter, while you were gone, this is Mrs. Long, and this is her real estate. And we're owners of the property on, was it 6 Ward? 9 Ward. And could you restate so our solicitor can hear? Basically what
He knows the story,
I know the story.
I
So
think he pretty much knows.
how can we facilitate an agreement with her realtor, get this property sold, get it in someone that wants to use the property, put it back on the tax rolls, and minimize our losses, and yet gain revenue from the tax lien?
Well, the buyer could pay the entire tax lien to the township and the seller could convey title. The problem there is I suspect that there wouldn't be anything left for the seller. That's complicated, I think, probably by the fact that you spent significant funds cleaning the property at the time. We addressed that. I urged you to really give that some serious consideration. I indicated that, I didn't think that the property was worth your investment, but you nevertheless made a judgment call, thought that maybe the property could provide some value, and I certainly understand that. The question now is, having made that investment in view of the total tax lien, is there an ability to transfer it to an interested buyer at a competitive price that is fair to the township and may leave some residual value to the estate? Is that about it?
Well, we're not looking for much of anything. I would like my brother to get his $6,000 back for the dumpsters, but we can't even go to settlement and pay settlement costs or my real
What's the
estate
total
agent.
amount of the lien at this time?
It's $49,654, I believe.
So again, I did receive the letter, and I indicated earlier in the meeting that it would be incumbent upon the committee to tell me, you know, can you compromise that in advance of any type of public sale of the foreclosed tax lien? And I would just need an opportunity to look into that.
Okay.
I believe that there is an ability by ordinance potentially to forgive a portion of that lien in order to facilitate a transfer at a competitive price. Again, you know, otherwise, like I said, it's counterintuitive. Otherwise, how would you ever get these properties back on the tax roll? You have to go through the foreclosure process. That might be the answer, but I have to look into it to see if there's another avenue that could be expedite that process and allow you to transfer the property and restore it to the tax lien. So, through the direction of the committee, I assume that I'm able to do that. I will advise the committee in that regard and sufficiently in advance that if they wanted to take some action in that regard, they could do so at the next meeting.
Is everyone okay with?
I don't know if the sellers are gonna wait that long.
Okay. Is everyone okay with Peter pursuing that? Okay.
Do you have a qualified offer?
How much,
Yes.
how much time are we talking about?
Well, the next meeting, right? You wouldn't be able to take any action before the next meeting, so.
So we're talking 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
I personally have no issue with, I mean, let's be honest here. You've got, first of all, the property that you cleaned up, we've spent a lot of time talking about it, I will tell you that. I can't imagine what you went through to do that. We've got buyers that are sitting here that are residents of the town that want to buy the property, and I think we're very pleased with that. I personally don't care. I think we ought to just say thank you very much and relinquish the 9654 and move on. But if we need to go through
Does
these
the proposed
ladders,
sale price exceed the lien value?
It exceeds the lien value, but it does not exceed closing costs. So they would have to bring money to the table for the sale of the property, which they're not able to do.
Well, okay. Because you can sell it without any action by the township if the title companies require the lien to be satisfied at the table. So, you know, that's why I asked, does the sale price exceed the value of the lien? You're saying by not sufficiently to account for what would be necessary. Well, the closing costs would be on the buyer essentially, right? I mean, that's normally the way it is.
The majority would be for sure. There's a couple $100 in title fees on the seller side and commissions for agents.
So what prevents this going forward is a couple $100?
The approximately between $6,000 and $7,000 is really what's preventing it from moving forward.
So the proposed sale price is $6,000 or $7,000 less than the total lien?
The total lien and the additional fees involved in the sale of the home for the seller.
I'd be happy to talk to you about this offline. You know, you're able to buy the property subject to the lien. There may be a way of doing that depending upon the numbers, and I'd be happy to facilitate that discussion if the committee would like me to do so, again, in an effort to restore the property to the tax rolls. If they had to do something legally with the existing lien, that would require an action of the committee, most likely an ordinance, and I'll guide them in that regard, certainly before the next meeting. But if you contact my office tomorrow or through Doug, I'll have a general discussion with you and see if that helps you going forward. Because again, the title company will insure title. If this lien is satisfied in full, they'll have to satisfy it in full at the table, so I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what those challenges are, and I don't
There's
think
one other point though, there was a $9,000 lien in addition to your lien, and the tax collector told me that that company no longer existed and it would go away. Now you've found two numbers for liens?
It's just the lien number.
Oh, okay, I don't know.
Okay, rather than belabor this with the public, is the committee okay with Peter talking with the real estate agent and the buyers and see if he can get a resolution and understand that if there is action we have to take, we would have to wait 2 more weeks to take that action, and if you could make the sale contingent upon that action. Is that okay? All right. And I do thank you for cleaning that property up. It was a mess. It's an eyesore.
Such a job.
And I know you did spend quite a bit of resources to clean that property up.
Well, yeah.
And we do look forward to a family living on that property and raising a family there. And
My mother
making
loved
good
that
use of it.
house, what you did to it was a disaster.
Well, thank you for coming out tonight, and please make sure our attorney has your card before you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we took care of that. We took care of the Tucker House. We do have a handout for the budget, but what I would ask the committee to do, since you've already had it since Friday, is to review that, and Doug, we'll go over this at our next meeting. Okay. Is that okay? Yep. Now, what is our timeline for the budget, just so that everyone knows as far as getting it information?
Okay, we have to introduce on March the 16th, so we have our March 12th meeting. And for the next regularly scheduled meeting of the governing body, which would include March 26th. And then we have to have adoption by April 20th for our next regularly scheduled meeting of the governing body, which would be the 23rd if we went off to the 26th. So,
23rd, right? Okay.
23rd is the latest we can adopt, and the 26th is the latest we can review.
Committee okay with reviewing the budget, and we'll have a more in-depth conversation at our next meeting? Okay, thank you. Reports. Mr. Govey.
Just one thing this evening, the DOT grant applications were divvied out last week. There was an announcement. We did receive a grant of $245,000 for Carranza Road, which is a nice chunk of change. It doesn't get us the entire length of what we want to pave, but it is a good start. And Doug and I are working with just determining how far that'll take us, and if there's any other monies that we can sort of put towards that to see how far we can go on Carranza. Okay. But you were granted the $245,000, so at least we got a start on it. So I had
Emergency services.
Our solicitor is suggesting that we contact the state facilities there to see if they would contribute, since they're a prime user of that road.
We can certainly approach them.
To facilitate emergency access there, and I don't know what department of state that comes under. Is it corrections?
No, that's judicial. And it is a contracted vendor who's running the facility.
So it's owned by the state, right?
It's owned by the state, but it's contracted vendor.
District
Seems like they should contribute, that's all.
I've also spoken to the administrator at Chemung and asked them to see whether they'd be willing to contribute a portion if we wanted to do the balance of our own money, or whether they would be willing to submit with us next year for a combined grant to finish it. My discussion is that they have just started into a 10-year program of their own roads, so that most likely a contribute from the local level is not, but they will give some consideration to joining us in an application like we did for Tucker Road.
That was before our commitment to Carranza, though. I'd be happy to talk to some folks on the committee.
So, this grant reduces what the balance would be to at least get to North Meadow Road. So it's a smaller amount than what it would be. But they are going to bring it up at their next meeting. Okay, as part of their discussion.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Mr. Kramer, your report?
I don't have anything additional at this point.
Let's do it up for budget.
Sorry.
It's on the tape.
That's all it's it.
Is that all right?
I was going to talk about the Longstreet properties. Okay, done with that.
Okay, good. Committee mediation.
Nothing to report.
Committeeman Franzen.
I'll pass.
Committeewoman Mrs. Brown.
Mary, I just want to let you know that the next meeting I will be unable to attend due to a family
Okay, thank you.
issue. And I will be forwarding some letters that came from the school to municipal lines. We have a presenter at the school. Bullying and self-esteem, and the kids were widely moved by it, and they helped me to write letters to the committee thanking them, and they didn't get the copies to me today, but I'll make sure they get forwarded so you can get a copy of them.
That's the 12th you won't be available, right?
Yes.
I'll put it in there so you will get it home. Deputy Mayor, Blake.
I've got a couple things. Simple thing is I attended the chili cook-off at the Medford VFW, which was put on by Tony Laudicina, who's the post commander, and I will also say that Cliff Toy, who's a Tabernacle resident, won the chili cook-off. But what I really wanted to talk about was the tremendous amount of pride that I have in our community. I was away for a good part of the month of January and the beginning of February on work with the farm. And I was terribly shaken by Joanne's passing. But I have to tell you publicly how proud I was of the outpouring of support from our community. Joe and I went to the funeral together on, we got there early, 8:45, and Jamie was getting everybody organized. This is where everyone's going. It was very well orchestrated. I guess probably not the right term, but it was very organized, and it was a tremendous tribute. But one thing I wanted to share with you was a discussion I had with one of our employees that day when I came back. And it was difficult for all of us. But the thing that I think really struck me was that our main job was to support George and his family, and was to support the rescue squad and their loss. But I feel compelled to just share my condolences to one of the finest organizations we have in town. But I have to tell you how proud I was to be there, and I'm just the amount of pride that our town has. We may not always get along, and we're kind of like siblings in a way. But at the end of the day, we all support each other no matter what. And that was clearly evident last week, and I just wanted to express my thoughts on that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a few communications I'll just briefly go over. There's actually a resolution that some towns were passing to reduce and eliminate telemarketing harassment. So the legislators are looking to strengthen that. There is a no-call list. I get calls all the time. I'm sure everyone else does. And we can talk later if we want to do this to support that legislation. Also, we received a communication from the State of New Jersey Finance Commission. They're making some changes to their plan, which will make its way to our Land Development Board. They'll have to look at it. And once we see what some of their model ordinances are, if the Land Development Board passes over to us, we may have to take some action as far as changing our ordinances to be in compliance with the changes that they're going to be recommending. Other than that, that's all I have, and at this time, we're going to open it to the public. Please state your name, address, for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. Just make sure you come up here and speak loud so that our clerk can get your report. Anyone from the public who would like to speak? Mr. Brooks.
North Mill Road. Could you just review quickly the timelines for the public safety director? It was very difficult hearing in the back. It is very difficult. Sometimes talk with your hands in front of your mouths, and this is a public meeting, and you should be heard by everyone front and back.
Mrs. Brooks, if you're having trouble hearing, why don't you step your next to Stuart? With all due respect.
There's nothing wrong with my hearing, it's just that the nature of the room, Mr. Lee, I know you commented about that again, but in all due respect, it's the nature of the acoustics in the room. People talking with their hands in front of their mouths and whispering. Okay, so can you give us the timeline again?
Our clerk will advertise this Friday, which will be March 2nd.
Okay.
With the proposals due back by Friday, March 16th. Subcommittee of Deputy Mayor Lee and Committeeman Yates will review those proposals. And hopefully by April 9th, they'll have a recommendation to this committee.
That helps a lot, right?
Of course, you said you weren't going to be here on the 9th, right?
No, you're one of those.
That's right.
So it'll be the 27th, you
If
said?
they could do the 26th, if not, we're not going to rush this. You know, we want to select the right candidate, then it would be April 23rd.
That's our goal.
Okay.
Kim and I will not be here on the 9th. We won't be together on the 9th either way. We're not going to be here on the 9th.
Okay. Thank you for reviewing that. I'm not sure that a proper resolution was adopted or the procedure was proper regarding the tabling of the discussion on emergency services until you have a public safety director in place. So just from a procedural standpoint, I didn't hear that a motion was made and votes were taken, or even whether everyone says aye or nay, but that didn't really happen. It was just, I think you just quickly ran through it because you had a fairly big agenda. So I'm just suggesting that maybe just for the purposes of public governmental procedure that you do that again, and just make it really clear that this was a motion to table the emergency services. Mr. Lyon may disagree with me, I don't know, but it wasn't clear that actually a proper motion was taken. Okay. I was just curious as to why the executive session portion of the January 22nd meeting was not prepared and presented to the committee for approval and ultimately release. So is there any reason why that portion of the meeting was not prepared? Was not available?
Not available. They're not complete yet.
Okay. And do you have any idea what the timeline on that is? You're a busy lady, I recognize.
Working as fast as I can.
Okay. So does that mean the end of the month? Thank you.
Get it done as soon as I can.
Okay. Appreciate it. Just a question about the Carranza Road issue. First of all, I know that Mr. Brooks and I and some other people on the road spoke with the committee and regarding the quality of that road and its the fact that it's in such terrible shape. And I'm glad to see that the application was put in, Mr. Guzzi. Thank you very much. And that we actually got half of what you estimate the entire road to cost to pay. Now, back when the brakes were put on the $800,000 bond to pay Powell Place Road, there was a resolution taken that monies would go from a bond to finish the road, finish Carranza Road. And I think it is a good idea to address the state, but notwithstanding that state facility, but notwithstanding, Shimon got a big grant, maybe they have a small amount of money to put in, they're doing other roads, why are we the stepchild, The other point, I would just like 30 seconds about something that I was very much bothered by at the last meeting. And that is this, there were a couple of people who were doing a lot of fear-mongering. And this is regarding emergency services. There was a tremendous amount of fear-mongering going against the committee, okay? And this is people's time, public comment is people's time to make comments, but they should be factually based, and they should be done on the basis of fear-mongering. It's a terrible process and it's a terrible presentation to do that. And so I want to make a comment about it. For example, one of the things was comments about the fire company. This was no insult to them, and maybe I shouldn't be talking on behalf of them, but I'm looking at it as a resident mayor who's saying that these people are really trying hard, and when they're told that they can't do rescue, and when factually it's my understanding that half that fire company does rescue, has had rescue training, continues to get rescue training, they should not be, their position should not be spoken about in such a way as to undermine and to fear-monger you and undermine the process for doing emergency services. The other comment that was made that I thought was particularly disturbing, coming from a little bit of a military family, and my husband's father who fought in the Battle of the Bulge, that people who in the military aren't heroes. Now, frankly, and I have the quote, I have it transcribed, these people who go out and have fought in Vietnam, fought in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Iran, Iraq, they are clearly heroes. And to speak of them as not being heroes and saying that the Tabernacle Rescue Squad is higher than these people who have put their complete lives on the line is just a shocking statement. And whether or not the colonel meant to say that, I don't know. And maybe in the heat of his presentation, it came off. I have the transcription of it, but nonetheless, it was an inappropriate statement to make, and again, a situation where there was a lot of fear-mongering going on. This is a very systematic process that you're engaged in terms of deciding emergency services, including the public safety director. Just treat it as a policy issue systematically, without passion involved, because its passion doesn't rise to the occasion, it doesn't rise to reason, and you're there to reason.
Which meeting was this, Mrs. Brooks?
I'm sorry?
Which meeting was this?
This was last meeting. You can go and listen to the report.
And if you remember, Colonel Lowe gave a report as the OEM coordinator, and then when he was completed, he had said before he came up here, he also wanted to speak as a resident.
Correct.
And if you remember, I said to him, now that you're done, do you want to speak as a resident? So
Correct.
what he said was, as a resident, not as the OEM coordinator, and as you said, he has a right to speak his mind just like you do.
Absolutely. But to talk about the military not being heroes is a little bit difficult, and that fire can't do rescue. I mean, it's your job to do a systematic analysis, systematic investigation, not with emotion, not with passion, but with reason, and that's all I'm asking.
That's what we try to do.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Anyone else in the public? Mr. Kramer.
How you doing, Mayor? My name's Brian Hughes. I live at 23 Goose Pond Road.
Hold on a second. Mr. Kramer's speaking first.
Oh, is he?
Yes, you can sit right there.
No, I'll go back. I won't be long. Oh, no worries.
Douglas Kramer, 24 Vale Drive, Tabernacle.
You're speaking as a resident.
I'm speaking as a resident.
Thank you.
My memory of Colonel Lowe's statement was that he wasn't the hero. Not that the military was, not the people that served underneath him, that he wasn't the hero. And he equated the people that served under him and the fire company and the rescue squad as being equal. Did not hear him say that the military were not heroes. His statement was that he wasn't the hero, because he just managed it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hey, sir. My name's Brian Hughes.
Wait to get up here, Brian. Go on first.
Calm down. I can go back there. You go.
She has to hear you.
My name's Brian Houston, I live at 23 Goose Pond.
Brian, what was your last name?
Houston,
Can you spell it?
Husted.
Thanks.
Since you tabled the EMS thing, a little bit about this public safety director. I listened to all you just talk a little bit about it, and it seems like you don't know the qualifications of a public safety director, or do you?
Well, we just introduced what we
I saw you
determined
just-
are
I
the
heard you
public
introduce
safety director's qualifications. The qualifications that we would like to see are in
Right.
this document that we talked about tonight.
Now, you're looking at April 23rd hiring a public safety director. You're looking maybe. So, and fall back with the EMS contract, and I have nothing to do with the EMS contract, I'm just a resident here. You're looking 23rd, you give him 90 days to get a feel for the township and the people. Then say somebody says, let's go for an RFP. You're looking at least 120 to 180 days to contract out. Meanwhile, our EMS people back here are working with no contract. Now, I can honestly say, as a resident here, my son fell into a fire, burned both his hands. A lady right there in the blue, within 4 minutes, she was at my house. Had my kid in the ambulance at the hospital. You cannot ask for better service. Now, somebody wants to do an FRP, they outsource it. We lose all these fine individuals. We just lost a family. Think about that. You lost a family. Now, all we are to somebody else is a name, a number, and a dollar bill. That's all we are. And that's what some people, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't lie, up there, that's what you're thinking, dollar bills. What can I get in the coffers of Tabernacle? Is it worth losing a family? So we're looking at a year. Get the damn contract signed. Work on it. Don't hold it off. 2 years? That's a crack. Most unions don't even go 2 years. A year. And you're sitting there playing on your phone. You have my undivided attention for 2 hours there, Stephen Lee.
Excuse me?
Keep my, look at me when I'm speaking.
I've listened to everything you've said and I'm absorbing it.
No,
If you want
you look at me, I look
I'm not
at
having
you.
this conversation.
Please.
I'm not having this conversation.
No, you don't want to have that with me.
Excuse me, sir, with all due respect, you're addressing the committee. I'm listening to what you're telling me. If you want to have, if you want to,
What you doing is you down here looking at that.
Excuse me. With all due respect, this is your time. You're wasting your time by I don't even know what you're doing, but you're wasting your own time. This is your
No,
time.
I'm not wasting my time.
Please proceed.
I wanted your attention. That's all I'm asking for.
You have my attention.
Thank you.
And
Get
you
the
have,
contract signed. Work on it. Don't delay it. You lose a family. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public? Mr. Brooks.
Stuart Brook, Portsmouth Road. Regarding the contract with the TRS, it's taken a long time to drag the committee and drag the TRS to the point where a contract's even under consideration. And I want to tie that to an article I read in the local paper that also reported that TRS is operating without a new contract. Well, it's taken this long to get people to the table to even talk about a contract. When I say this long, it's taken 45 years. There has never been a contract, and that's the whole problem. Not the whole problem, that's a large part of the problem. So wait another month, 2, 3, in the scheme of things, I don't know that it really matters as long as the committee makes a reasoned and right decision, whatever that might be. But I think the public and some of the media is mistaken when they think that the problem is the TRS is working without a contract. They've been fine working without a contract for decades, and it's only been through the work of the committee and the concern of citizens that getting them on the contract has even been discussed. Suddenly, the situation is being described as if it's reversed, and it's not that way. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Anyone else from the public? Okay, we've closed the public portion.
Joe, sorry, you didn't see me.
Okay, Jamie.
Jamie Wood, Kenmare Drive. I'm speaking on behalf of Tabernacle Rescue Squad tonight.
A couple points. You stand up here and talk about this contract, and it's not that big of a deal. We had hashed this out back in June of 2016, and last I remember, it was a done deal, and for some reason it got tabled. I don't remember the particulars on why, because it got tabled so many times, so the original one I don't remember. But the point that you're missing is the people that are here right now, my heart rate is 140. This is why I don't come here. So my heart rate's 140. I know George's is 170. And that man did lose his wife. And how dare you say that we are like family. If we were like family, you would have said, you know what, let's do a contract. RFP is out the window. So I'm standing here because I don't want him to get up here and go into cardiac arrest because he is so tense and irritated. You have no idea what it's like every meeting to go home and feel the aggravation that you're putting us through. We are people. We come out and we save every single one, even you. Any one of you that called, we would come out and save you. And we don't collect the big paycheck that everybody thinks we do. We don't cost you money. I do work in other towns. We work, a couple of us that are here work in other towns. You are never going to get a better service than you have right here. Today, I talked to the Department of Health, specifically said Tabernacle Rescue Squad, to the director of the whole Department of Health, said Tabernacle Rescue Squad is a premier organization of volunteers, one of the very few left in the county. You're about to just destroy that. So you want a paid service? I'll tell you what you get. You're going to get Hampton Lakes coming in here with one rig, not being able to get a second rig. We had 3 rigs out on an accident. The fire company had countless trucks, I don't know how many. The rescue was there, all volunteers. And you're going to sit here and say you're going to go out for RFP. You're missing, one, the personal touch, because it should be a family. That's the way it should be. So if you're going to say it's a family, then you should treat us as such and not threaten to take us out to RFP. I can't take it anymore. I absolutely can't stand coming here and waiting for the other shoe to drop. If you want to get rid of us, get rid of us. Don't threaten us anymore. I can't do it. And I don't want this man to have to stand up here and defend himself when I can tell you I was in an active shooter class with him all day for our town, to cover our town. And you know what we talked about on the way home? He's got to be careful because he's the only parent that's left. And I'm going to let him stand up here and feel this way? And you're crying for his wife, but yet at the same time, going to say, oh, I don't know if we're going to keep you, we're going to keep you on hold, we're going to keep you on hold. We didn't operate with a contract, because back in those days it was about a handshake. That changed. Somewhere along the lines, society changed, and now it's all about a contract. Whatever the case may be, we need to put an end to it. So all these people that are standing back here, and the ones that can't come, normally like myself, the only reason why I'm standing here, oh, Stephen, I'm done, don't worry. The only reason why I'm standing here is because I don't want him to be tortured any longer by you.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. Yes, sir.
Joseph Stidle, 8 Avenue B, speaking as a resident and as a member of BSA Troop 439 located here in Tabernacle. RFP shouldn't even be an option. By saying that you have the option to get rid of the rescue squad is belittling all the hours of training that these men and women have put in, and all the hours that they work at the rescue squad as volunteers to save everyone in this town and to help everyone in this town. And BSA Troop 439, if you dissolve the rescue squad, we don't exist, and we don't exist to serve the town anymore, because they're our charter organization, and they've put in time for us. Without that, you lose the family of the rescue squad, and you lose the family of the BSA. And this town no longer has Eagle Scouts that are learning new skills.
That's not 100% accurate. The relationship is with BSA and the rescue squad. Your charter comes from the rescue squad, unless I'm incorrect. Irregardless of anything, that's between the rescue squad and
charters exist independently of council. They are our charter.
But it's got nothing to do with us.
We understand. If you dissolve the rescue squad, they no longer exist to provide our support to us. They technically own everything that we have. They provide us the meeting location, and if you take them away, you take us away.
Well, they're actually, and Joseph, I know you through Scouts, but I'll tell you that they are an independent organization. They're not part of the township. They're an independent, nonprofit organization. They're not a department of the township.
Anyone else want to comment? Mr. Kramer?
Steve Kramer, 1000 Old Indian Mills Road. I'm not speaking as a rescue squad. I think you know where I feel, or how I feel about this as a rescue squad member. I'd just like to speak to the Public Safety or the Emergency Services Subcommittee, whatever you're calling yourself this year. When you do have these considerations, the Brookses have made some really good points about rescue needing to be shared, and these guys, some of them have certifications in rescue. Stewart even stood up here at one point and asked you point blank, if a rescue went out on the highway in front of the firehouse, would you allow the engine that you bought them, the rescue engine, to serve in that capacity? And this committee said yes, and they support that. So what I'm asking for is if you feel as in favor of allowing folks who don't serve in the rescue squad to do rescue in town, and you feel that that's the way you want to go, you want to have that shared task force sort of response, that you allow those of us who have our firefighting certification through the state, same as they're claiming to have rescue certifications, although there is no standard for a rescue certification, obviously. But those of us who are in the rescue squad who are not allowed to run with the fire company, I'm not allowed to serve this town firefighter anymore. I would like that same consideration for the neighbors across from the ESB. I have fire gear, I have a truck with an air pack, 99, I have the certification. But currently, this township allows this company to do rescue when it's not in their ordinance and all that because it's for the benefit of the residents. I would like the same ability to, if the house across the street burned down, not have to look at the father walking out the front door and say, I'm certified, I have the equipment, but I can't do it because they won't allow me to. So if we're going to have this conversation where the rescue of town is done by both organizations or as a shared service where they're backing us up as the primary, I'd like the same consideration to be made for the 15 or 16 so members that we have that fight fire in other towns. You have guys standing here that run with the rescue squad who have different patches on them. Currently I have to run 7.5 miles, and it's by my choice, I ran with them first. But I have to run 7.5 miles to Union Fire Company to get on a red truck to come back to towns. And they're calling us, so I do get the help in that way, but I'd like to be able to help in my own community. If we have this conversation, and I know there are people in here that are shaking their heads, but the argument has been made by the Brookses, by the fire company, by you, that rescue can be done by both, and fire can be done by both as well. I would appreciate that consideration.
You were at one point you were a dual member of Medford Farms and.
I was never a member of Medford Farms.
But
I
you
was
were a member of
Tabernacle Fire
Tabernacle.
Company number 1.
You had your gear.
I did have gear, and then I was removed. I don't want to say arbitrarily, but a number was made up.
No, you're right.
A random evening on 11:30, I got a phone call that said my gear had been pulled. I went and got my gear. I was a social member for about a year and a half, which meant I could drink coffee there, but I couldn't fight fire, and I didn't much see the point in that. That wasn't what I signed up to do, and I ran with, at the time, 5 other organizations.
But you weren't the only one that went through that.
There were many of us who went through that.
That's part of the problem.
Most of us shared a rescue squad.
He's dead right. It's part of the problem.
But I was given a letter in October said I was removed completely from the fire company, and I get that. I didn't fight it. I didn't.
In October?
In October of this last year, where I was removed from social membership completely because of inactivity, and I get that. I didn't fight it. I didn't bring it up.
Copy of that letter, please?
What's that? Sure.
Sure.
But I would like the same consideration given the fact that I have a certification, and there's a group of us that do, and we would love to serve town in that way if you go forward looking that way. Thank you.
He is smart.
Anyone else from the public? Okay, we're going to close the public portion. We're talking about a request for proposal or a contract. And if the request for proposal would go out, more than one party has an opportunity to bid. And the Tabernacle Rescue Squad has that opportunity if this committee decides to go that way. We haven't made that decision yet. Everyone's under this opinion that we've already made a decision of where we're going with this. If you look at the agenda, it says a request for proposal or contract. And we haven't decided yet where we're going to go. Yet everyone's making assumptions that we're trying to get rid of the rescue squad. And that has not taken place. And all the testimony hasn't been in yet. You heard tonight that this committee, as a majority, would prefer to put a public safety director in place to solve some of the problems that you heard tonight. But yes, if there's a rescue anywhere in this town and the fire truck's there first, they should start the rescue till the rescue squad gets there. No different than if there's a fire in this town and Hampton Lakes gets there first, or Chemung, or wherever, they start the hoses. They don't wait for Tabernacle to get there. And that's why, hopefully a public safety director will be in place and bring the synergies together. And hopefully those that want to be members of the Tabernacle Fire Company, that are members of the Tabernacle Rescue Squad, if they're willing to put the time in, should be able to be members of the Tabernacle Fire Company, and vice versa. That is why we are down the road and why we are looking at a public safety director, because the public safety director will have the authority to coordinate all the divisions of public safety. With that, Peter, Mrs. Brooks brought up a procedural question about whether we followed the right process.
It's Robert's rules. My belief was there was an acclamation to carry it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Who's got a comment?
Yes, go
Can I
ahead.
just make one
Yeah,
comment to follow up what you just said?
Sure.
I get what you're saying about the RFP and everything, but I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm not speaking for any organization in this community, but if I'm the organization that's been here for 45 years and you put an RFP out, I'm not going to put in for it, because that's telling me that you don't have faith in me if you put the RFP out. That's just my opinion, not speaking for any of them, but it's a slap in the face to the volunteers.
Well, RFPs are designed to get the lowest price for the best service.
Again, the only thing that we're doing is giving them the balance billing money. They're not charging us. And again, we didn't do it for the fire company, and we just gave them a check. So you gotta play it both ways. You can't say, I'm holding you to this, but not you to that. So, I mean, if you're gonna treat people fair, you gotta do it across board. And believe me, nothing against the fire company, you know I support all of you. But we're lopsided, we're really
I
lopsided.
think I'm the guy that actually said tonight that you didn't want to talk about our
I understand what
Just
you're
wanna
saying.
clarify.
I am also the person that said I wanted to move forward on the contract
Yeah.
tonight, so.
That's true.
Okay,
I
with
mean,
that,
I
I need a motion to go into executive session. We're going to go into executive session to discuss shared services with adjacent communities. After executive session, we'll go back into full session and may or may not take action. And if we don't, we won't. We have a motion to go into executive session. Everybody,
Ask him what happened.